The Comet is the oldest roller coaster still operating at Hersheypark. This classic wooden roller coaster is prominently featured towards the front of the park, and it has been thrilling riders for 75 years. But does it still carry its weight when compared to Hershey's more modern coasters? Yes. Comet opened in 1946. This coaster replaced the park's original Wildcat, which was in poor condition, due to World War II causing a lumber shortage. Wildcat was interestingly the first coaster designed by Herb Schmeck. Schmeck would go on to design 72 different roller coasters for the Philadelphia Toboggan Company, including Comet. And interestingly, Hersheypark originally didn't own the Comet in full. PTC had an interesting business strategy. To help parks pay for the attractions, they would become partners. The park would get a flashy new attraction. PTC would get a down payment from the park, and then share revenue with the park for a specified time. This arrangement worked well in the days before pay-when-price tickets became the norm, since the exact money raised by each attraction could be easily determined. The exact details of Comet's lease are unclear, but in the 1950s, Hersheypark gained full ownership of the Comet. It's unknown if the lease was short, or if PTC terminated it early. And unlike Wildcat, Comet has been very well taken care of. I have been riding Comet since 2005, and it has always been a remarkably smooth coaster, despite its age. This is smoother than a lot of modern wood coasters and even some steel coasters. That is how well Hersheypark maintains this ride. Outside of some light shuffling in the valleys on a wheel seat, Comet is perfectly smooth. The ride also looks incredible. For many years, this was the first coaster people saw when they arrived at Hersheypark. The coaster's lift hill towered above Founder's Circle, and the ride always looked great with its pristine white paint scheme and chaser lights at night. The ride's visual presence has been lessened by two hypercoasters though. Hersheypark received a new entrance in 2020, so the first coaster people now see is Candymonium, the giant B&M hypercoaster. And back in 2012, the park erected Skyrush, and this intimate hypercoaster dwarfs Comet. The lift passes directly over Comet's. Comet is located in the Hollow section of Hersheypark. Originally, this area was named Comet Hollow after the coaster, but it was shortened to just the Hollow in 2012 after the addition of Skyrush. Skyrush really likes to steal Comet's thunder. Comet often has one of the longest waits in the park. This is for several reasons. First, its proximity to the main entrance makes it one of the first attractions people ride. It's not surprising for Comet to get a full queue shortly after opening. This line can regularly reach 45 to 60 minutes in the park's first hour of operation, and it takes a large chunk of the day for the line to die down. So if you want to avoid the crowds, either hit this ride during early entry, if you have it, or come back towards the end of the day. Second, this coaster appeals to a wide range of riders. It holds nostalgia for older guests. It's large enough to appeal to thrill seekers, and the lack of inversions and 200-foot heights make it accessible for most riders. Plus, it has a surprisingly low 42-inch height requirement, which is fantastic for younger guests. Most wood coasters have a 48-inch height requirement. This makes Comet the first wood coaster for a lot of kids. Comet has a classic station. I loved how the curved building continues from the brake run. This wood coaster sports two PTC trains. Each train is named after a famous comet and features a navy blue paint scheme with striking red buzz bars. I've never seen buzz bars any other color but black, so it's cool to see them as red. And these buzz bars are one of the best parts about Comet. These restraints rest a good foot above the lap of most riders. These restraints are paired with seat belts. In terms of seat selection, I strongly recommend the back car. The airtime is considerably stronger, particularly during the ride's first half, and it's not the least bit rough as I mentioned earlier. Once dispatched, you ascend the 84-foot or 26-meter tall lift. The lift hill used to have a noticeable kink in it, but that was corrected during a 2014 retracking project. Once you reach the top, you descend down the 78-foot or 24-meter tall drop. This drop, as well as the second drop, pass over Spring Creek, and the first drop gives some strong flagector airtime the whole way down if you're in the back car. You then rise up into the first turnaround. Up front, you get a faint pop of airtime entering this element. You then round a tight corner, getting a little bit of laterals, and then drop down the ride's second drop. And this is the best part of the ride. If you're in the back car, you get a strong ejector pop. It is a very strong burst of airtime considering the buzz bar restraints. You then coast over a camelback adjacent to the lift hill. It's too drawn out for any airtime, but you do get a dose of laterals since the hill banks to the right. The laterals are stronger towards the back since you're whipped down the drop. You then rise up into the second turnaround. Front row riders get a tiny pop of airtime. Now up to this point, Comet has been flying, but this turnaround features a trim brake. This is a rising skid brake that always seems to grab the train. I've had rides where you're slowed down to a crawl, and others where you're slowed down just a bit. Regardless of the speed at which you come off this turnaround, the second half is considerably tamer than the first half. The drop off the second turnaround gives some floater airtime in the back, and then you navigate an L-shaped turnaround. The entry into this element gives a decent pop of airtime up front, but it's the last bit of airtime front row riders will receive. The descent is exceedingly shallow and offers no airtime. Comet then traverses a series of slow bunny hills. One of the issues with the second half of Comet is that it has a higher elevation than the first half. The ride's natural speed loss, combined with the higher elevation, causes the train to crawl, especially if you've been severely braked. These hills give zero airtime up front, but the back car does get a faint pop of airtime on 2 or 3 of the later ones, as long as you aren't severely trimmed. The only cool thing about these hills is that they pass by Founder's Circle flat rides and Sky Rush. The turnarounds in the finale do offer some faint laterals though, since they're completely unbanked. Eventually, you sharply charge into the brake run, ending the ride. Comet is a tale of two halves. The first half is great. I love the airtime on 3 of the ride's first 4 drops. Getting that type of airtime with just buzz bars is pure bliss. But the second half is a slow, plodding dud. But thankfully the ride is extremely smooth, so even when Comet is crawling, it's not beating you up like some wood coasters do. So what would I rate the Comet? I would give this coaster a 6.5 out of 10. Comet is a Hersheypark staple. Its significance to Hersheypark cannot be overstated, and I think it's still the park's best wood coaster. However, it is a flawed ride. The ride's pacing and airtime really suffer in the second half, which is a shame because Comet starts off so strong. Overall, this is a fun classic wood coaster that keeps me coming back for those initial drops in buzz bar restraints. So those are my thoughts on Comet, Hersheypark's oldest currently operating roller coaster. Have you been on this ride? What are your thoughts on the Comet? I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, I'd appreciate if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, since there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.